If you think of all the crippling problems with EVs, long charging times, vast and heavy batteries, poor range, poor towing capacity, huge energy demands on the grid, and multiply all them by 100, then you're getting close to the problems with EV trucks and buses. Unlike a diesel truck that can refuel in 10 minutes and then go for several hundred kilometres before needing to stop again, EV trucks are off the road for hours while they charge up, can barely go half that distance in ideal conditions, if you're lucky, and cost way more to start with. And then you need to factor in the cost of grid upgrades to provide for the hundreds and thousands of charging stalls needed to keep them going. And the fact that your drivers will need to be paid to stand around doing nothing while they charge. None of this makes a shred of economic or practical sense, and anyone who believes this is possible in barely 10 years is living in a fantasy world. So therefore it comes as no surprise that the Environmental Protection Agency of the Biden administration, which has to be one of the most incompetent in history, has just enacted all of this madness in the US. Welcome back to MGUY, British engineer and lawyer turned Sydney YouTuber. Please be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, drop a comment down below, and don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Twitter X. Nobody in the trucking industry believes any of this is possible or feasible, but they probably weren't even consulted, since governments aren't interested in the real problems faced by businesses in the real world. They only care about pushing an extreme environmental agenda, no matter how ludicrous it seems. And this is just the latest assault on vehicles after recent announcements regarding tailpipe emissions for cars. Entirely unachievable, Biden EPA locks in stringent emissions rules for heavy-duty vehicles to fight climate change. The Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, finalised aggressive emission standards Friday for heavy-duty vehicles that will effectively require huge increases in the number of electric or zero-emission buses and trucks sold over the next decade. The agency is projecting that the heavy-duty vehicle emission standard for model years 2027 to 2032 could result in zero-emission or electric vehicles, EVs, making up 25% of new long-haul trucks sold and 40% of all new medium-sized truck sales by 2032, according to the New York Times. The EPA's final emissions standards for heavy-duty vehicles complements the agency's recent release of the final tailpipe emission standards for light and medium-duty vehicles that has been characterized as an EV mandate. Currently, electric trucks can cost up to 3 times as much as diesel-powered models, and the size of their batteries reduces the amount of freight that a truck can haul, according to the Times. Electric trucks also need to use very strong chargers, which in turn could require upgrades to the power grid to handle recharging numerous trucks at the same time. There are currently about 5,000 electric truck chargers in the US today, and about 1 million will be needed to keep up with the EPA's regulation. In addition to buses and trucks, the regulation applies to vehicles like ambulances, garbage trucks, and cement mixers, according to the Times. While environmentalist organisations applauded the rule, several trucking industry trade associations, including the American Trucking Association, ATA, have sharply criticised it for imposing unrealistic compliance timelines that threaten to damage the American economy. ATA opposes this rule in its current form because the post-2030 targets remain entirely unachievable given the current state of zero-emission technology, the lack of charging infrastructure, and restrictions on the power grid, ATA President and CEO Chris Spear said in a statement. Given the wide range of operations required of our industry to keep the economy running, a successful emission regulation must be technology neutral and cannot be one size fits all. Any regulation that fails to account for the operational realities of trucking will set the industry and America's supply chain up for failure. Well, that kind of analysis is far too grounded in reality for governments like Biden's, which are drunk on the green Kool-Aid. Todd Spencer, president of the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association, summed it up perfectly when he said this: "This administration appears more focused on placating extreme environmental activists who have never been inside a truck than the small business truckers who ensure that Americans have food in their grocery stores and clothes on their backs." Indeed so. It seems that governments are living in a world that is completely detached from reality, and they don't even realise how deluded they are anymore. They're prepared to sacrifice everything on the altar of extreme environmentalism, including the health and prosperity of the people they're supposed to be there to serve.